Succubus Sessions' Mami Mamiya's Slice of Hell is a moe, nukige, or sex-heavy story, and that statement alone is probably going to be enough for some people to stop watching the video. But I was surprisingly entertained by how deep and detailed the main character and the succubus were for a Nukige. But why do I think this? For starters, this visual novel was developed by Argonauts, who developed the Uchikano trilogy, although that was by a different writer. And Argonauts is actually a sub-brand of Moonstone, who wrote the Princess Evangel and Magical Marriage Lunatics visual novels. Mami Mamiya is a light-hearted slice of life similar to the above titles, but with a little more spice, I guess. The story starts with the main character who, surprisingly, isn't completely boring or a loser, but actually someone who has a kind of depressing backstory, or someone with bad luck who keeps getting laid off of jobs due to companies he works for going bankrupt, and even having an ex-girlfriend where his relationship broke apart because he for some reason couldn't get it up during their attempted first time at sex. Just when he's about to be depressed for losing yet another job, he runs into a couple girls who are offering paid hugs for some reason. He's naturally hesitant, and considering he just lost a job, but the two girls end up heavily insisting he take part and not even have to pay money. But why are they doing this? Turns out we're going to start the first half of the visual novel with this really amusing succubus world building, starting off with the two main girls explaining what the translation calls a mojo scouter. If you know how succubi work, well, it's possible that when a succubus has intercourse with a human male, it's possible for them to suck the guy dry, but in this universe, it goes a step further where if their mojo power level isn't high enough, the male will literally die even with just physical touch with a succubus. The two girls invite the main character into an isolated succubus village, which, big surprise, is all women. Turns out there's a school, and the director of that school was the person who assigned the two girls who were looking for someone with a high enough mojo power level and convinced that guy to come to their village. Then, the director does a more amusing info dumping. Turns out the reason she's looking for a guy is to help start what this translation calls Project NAM, or Nab a Man. This is shit you can't make up unless you're an eroge. The quick version is basically she wants everyone in the succubus village to be able to control their succubus powers to not automatically suck the life out of any guy they physically touch. By finding someone with a super high enough mojo power level, and it turns out this main guy has one of over 10,000. Yeah, pretty clear that they were making a goofy Dragon Ball reference. With this super high mojo power level of his, the succubus girls could actually practice on someone, slowly controlling their succubus powers without outright killing a man. With the added long-term benefit of finding a way to keep the succubus population thriving without resorting to just stealing some random guy off the street for a semen, then have him dying after. And that's just the shorthand version. There's quite a lot of random details the director revealed that were so amusing that I was quite honestly laughing out loud. Like how well thought out the succubus race is, and how much the sex and the plot actually intertwine together kind of well for Nukige. I was expecting some half-assed excused plot, but it ended up being surprisingly engaging despite the light info dump. Even though this is a village of succubi, most of the characters that the main guy interacts with are just typical high school waifu archetypes, so many of them are still virgins and are hesitant to throw away their bodies. But after some introspection and thought, the title character Mami Mamiya, who's funnily enough the director's daughter, is the one who eventually first volunteers to be the first succubus to train for this Project NAM. I won't give away the rest of the plot deals related to Project NAM because there are some actually amusing plot developments and twists related to it. Instead, I'm going to very briefly go over the main character because, as I said, he also has some surprisingly detailed backstory. In addition to his extremely bad luck, he also get these weird dreams related to his parents, which had a moment which actually gave me a jump scare that I was not expecting to see from a moe nukige. Turns out the main character and the succubus race are a little bit more connected than you might expect. Speaking of connections, there are 4 main heroines, but this title mainly focuses on our pink hair token shy nice girl. However, given that the visual novel ends on an amusing cliffhanger, basically implying there's going to be a harem ending, meaning he's very obviously going to eventually get with 3 other heroines, the Gyaru Marin, the tsundere closet pervert Yuri, and my personal favorite, the mildly quirky troll yet nice Ruka. Ruka in particular interests me, since besides her amusing, dry humor, she's the one character the main character actually had a clear connection with in the past, and they seem to have more going on to the relationship besides just being old high school friends. That's all I'll say about the plot developments without giving too much away. The major characters are all likable enough, no one really deep or super unique though. My weirdo fetish obviously gravitates towards Ruka, as I just said, but to me it says something when what I assumed was going to be a trash Nukige actually has plot developments and twists. Required me to avoid talking about spoilers is definitely kind of weird, but interesting. Don't get me wrong though, this is not a deep story by any means, it's just a lot more detailed than your average Nukige plot. That said, I was pretty consistently entertained by learning more about the Succubus race, the main character's backstory, his connection with everything, and how he and Mami helped to be the first participants of Project NAM. Speaking of that project, since this is a Nukige review, I guess I might as well go over the H scene content since they are a big part of Nukige. And well, this visual novel is about as vanilla as it gets with roughly 10 to 15 H scenes, which includes just about every vanilla sex position you could think of. It also has a very common Nukige feature with an ejaculation countdown, which you can choose to enable or disable if you want immersion or not. What is unique about the H scenes though is something I've never seen before, these manga-style text bubbles that appear for about 20 to 30 lines per H scene. These are narrated from the female's point of view and does make the presentation more unique, and I guess hearing the girls' thoughts is interesting, but even then, these eventually disappear and go to regular ADV, so I don't know why this feature wasn't used more often throughout the story or even just H scenes, but whatever, I skipped almost all the H scenes anyway. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say without giving spoilers. I guess I can call this visual novel a guilty pleasure because even though I basically skipped all the H scenes, I was immersed enough in this weirdly entertaining yet detailed succubus setting and seeing the reveals and kind of amusing character interactions that happened between sex scenes, as well as the cliffhanger ending of the visual novel, intrigued me enough to want to read more. And as said before, I'm personally most interested in the weird girl Ruko, though she's in about 2 sequels from now. We have to go through a threesome sequel first. I will admit this is a hard visual novel to sell since it really is just a vanilla moe Nukige at heart, but it just happens to have more thought put into its setting than the average. At the end of the day, Succubus Sessions Mami Mamiya's Sweet Slice of Hell is not an excellent story by any means. I would not recommend this to people actually looking for a deep story with dynamic character development, emotional plot twists, or anything like that. Maybe a recommendation for someone who wants something cheap and wants something trashy yet unique or polished trash. Either way, this visual novel is about 8 hours, so if you're interested but aren't sure if you want to bite the bullet, you can wait for its already cheap base price of $15 to go on a discount. Personally, I gave it a 6.5 out of 10 just for the entertainment value.